on finance, audit and budget for Wednesday, March 13th, 2024.
So moved. I will take the roll. Director Ja? Here. Director Ortiz? Here. Chairman Barclay?
Here.
Director Miller?
Here.
Director Lee? Present. Chairman Barclay, we do have a quorum, but I believe that there's another matter that we have to address.
Chair recognizes Director Ortiz.
Good morning. I would like to request for Director Jakes to participate via Zoom due to conflicts with business matters.
Is there a second?
1 second.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Ortiz and seconded by Director Miller that this body would permit Director Bernard Jakes to participate remotely due to conflicts with his business schedule. We'll take the roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
The motion passes. We would ask technology to please allow Director Jakes to participate into the meeting remotely, and we do need to see him on the screen. Good morning, Director Jakes.
Morning.
Good. At this time, I would like to move to relinquish the chair to Director Jakes.
Thank you, Chairman Barclay. Good morning. I would like to call to order the March 13th, 2024 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit and Budget. Georgette, would you please call the roll?
Director Jakes, we have called the roll. We can now proceed to agenda item number 2.
Thank you. Our first order of business is the approval of the committee minutes on February 14th, 2024. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ortiz. We'll take a vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
The motion to approve the minutes passes.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the finance report. Jeremy Fine.
Morning, I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and I'll present the results for January. All right. So for the variance for revenues are shown here on the first page. We see Farebox coming in a little bit below budgeted expectations. This is probably primarily driven from the polar vortex that we experienced in January, as well as some potential for how we spread budget, but we'll keep an eye on that. But passes outperformed budgeted expectations by about $1 million. So overall, on a percentage basis, we're essentially flat, but slightly down by about $600,000. But we're above where we were in January of 23 by $100,000 on fare and pass totals. Reduced fare subsidy is coming in as expected. Non-fare box totals outperformed budgeted expectations by about $400,000. So overall, for the month, we see essentially flat on a percentage basis, but down by about $200,000 to budgeted expectations. But it is important to note that we're above January of 23 by about $600,000. With regard to our expenses, we see labor continuing to come in as we ramp up hiring efforts, but was coming in positive here to budgeted expectations by about 9.3, favorable to budgeted expectations by about $9.3 million. Materials are coming in as expected, slightly positive. Fuel and power continue to be strong performers for us. Injuries and damages coming in as expected. Security services are coming in essentially as expected, a little bit unfavorable. And then other expenses, as we close out one year and start another, we typically see some variance there. And essentially, we're essentially flat, but slightly negative on a dollar basis. But overall, for the month of January, we see outperformance to budget. So we're favorable by about $10.4 million. With regard to our public funding, the receipts for the month in aggregate are positive by about $1.7 million. We see sales tax for November coming in about $3.7 million to the positive, PTF coming in about $1.6 million to the positive. And then RET, we obviously have higher interest rates, which are having a dampening effect on real estate sales in general. And that is showing up in negative numbers for both RET and PTF on RET. But again, overall positive the budget by about $1.7 million. With regard to 2023 totals, we now have received everything through the end of the year except for sales tax. Sales tax, we still have one more month to receive, but through November and through December for the other various line items, we're positive by about $12.4 million. Again, with still December sales tax still to be received. With regard to our 2024 totals, we're seeing, the PTF coming in positive by about 2.2 and then negative for RET and PTF on RET. We have again yet to receive any sales tax for January. So right now, without receiving any sales tax for 2024, we're essentially flat on a percentage basis, but down by about 1.5 million in total budgeted dollars. With regard to the federal emergency relief funds, as per prior years, we see larger draws at the beginning of the year. Here for the month, we're drawing down about 19 million, 18.9 million for the month. This means that we'll now have drawn about 54% of the total allocation. But it is important to note that we still have over $1 billion remaining. And based on current projections, we assume that these dollars will last through the end of 2025 and into the early days of 26. But obviously, this is dynamic and we'll continue to keep the board apprised. With regard to the three commodities that we purchase, fuel, power, and natural gas, we're where we need to be locked in for the foreseeable future, at least through 24 on all three commodities. We continue with the RFP process for power. We'll continue to update the board as that develops. But again, we're locked in for outer years for fuel and natural gas. And once we complete that RFP process, we'll do the same for power. So that completes my report for January, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Jeremy, can you go back to the first slide for me?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you explain when you said you made a statement regarding adjusting the budget when it looks at the variance to January 23 and the variance to budget? Can you explain that? When you say you have to adjust the budget, if you adjust the budget, then why is it still unfavorable?
So we make estimates based on prior year trends with regard to how we spread our expected revenues and expenses. And we do so on each budgeted line item. So for Farebox and for passes, we make assumptions based on different trends. This year, obviously, we kind of broke through that longer term trend with the polar vortex period that we had. We had a several day period there that was extremely cold. And that had a dampening effect, particularly on Farebox, like pay per use. People elected to stay home during that period and not travel, to work or other events. Passes you see outperformed our budgeted expectations because again, you buy those passes in advance. But that polar vortex period obviously had an impact on our overall ridership and had an impact on pay per use. We try to factor in some of that into those longer term, trend lines in our budget. But again, if it's pretty severe, like it was for a couple of days, that pierces through that. We think that is the predominant share of why we underperformed in Farebox. But, we also are making guesses, based on those longer term trend lines with regard to each of these budgeted line items. So again, we think that was the reason behind that differential this month, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that, continue to keep the board apprised if there is longer term, differentials on a month to month basis.
So as in times past, as the weather, we've had a great winter. So which means that I'm presupposing that next month we'll see a change in these numbers because we've had milder weather.
Yeah, that is, based on what we typically see, when weather's better, people are riding more. That would again lead us to believe we've not yet received the numbers for Farebox here, for February, but we would, likely see an increase over to the budgeted expectations. But if not, we'll obviously update the board next month as to why.
And Jeremy, one last question, and it may require a long answer, and if it does, then we can talk later. With the federal relief draws, supposing we did not have that money, where would we stand as an agency?
So the federal relief funding has been very critical for us to continue to build back service. And that's been a critical lifeline for CTA and for other agencies across the country. And I think that the Congress really recognized that and afforded us that critical lifeline. Because if we did not have that, we would have a budget gap, to the tune of what we've been talking about in that $400 or $500 million type range that we're using those critical emergency relief funds for. And when we have gaps, that relates directly onto service. So again, it's critical for us to continue to drive our service levels back to pre-pandemic levels as we continue to hire folks back on to the workforce. And again, if we did not have those critical dollars, that directly relates back to service levels.
And when,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. President.
just to put a finer point on what Jeremy is saying here, both the emergency relief money and the legislative relief that we got down in Springfield around our recovery ratio are basically what are allowing us to continue to operate the service at the levels that we are. And there certainly would have been the basis for any return of service that we are planning for this year. Absent these funds, we would not be having a conversation about returning service to pre-pandemic levels. We'd be having a conversation about how much more we're gonna have to cut our service in order to basically balance our budget. So these have been critical funds to allow us to get back to a pre-pandemic level. They've also been critical for allowing us to do some things around fare policies and other things that we would not have been able to do budgetarily, but for the fact that we had, for lack of a better word, a safety net that has allowed us to experiment, do some other innovative things to bring our ridership back that we probably would have had more challenges around had we not had this funding available.
Okay. So we are really still in a position where by 2026, there has to be some work done to make sure that once all that money is gone, that we're able to stay afloat. Because if we don't, and these are my words, we really would then need to look at doing service cuts. Am I hearing that correctly?
Oh, you summarized it very well. We have enough funding as Jeremy has indicated to get us, we believe, through 2025. By 2026, if we have not found a more sustainable funding solution for, and let's just be clear, not just CTA, for Metro and PACE, and I would suggest for other transit systems around the state. This is not a localized issue in terms of the challenges that we're facing. You will be facing a very different budget conversation for 2026 than we've experienced over the last several years.
Okay. Well, Jeremy, thank you for your report. I appreciate it. No further questions, Georgette.
Thank you. We'll take questions of the other board members. Director Lee,
Thank you, Jeremy. No questions.
Thank you.
Director Miller,
No question.
Chairman Barclay.
Just one question I think we touched on. Probably want to hear the public to hear. The governor's proposing the elimination of the grocery tax. And we're largely dependent upon the sales tax. How might that impact the CTA?
So that's a great question. I would just highlight a couple of things. One is that it's currently a proposal. We can we are monitoring it very closely ourselves, along with our partners at RTA and working with the state on how that may manifest itself and what type of impact it would have to CTA. Right now, or historically, I should say, we as an RTA entity don't have a lot of transparency into which particular line items kind of aggregate up to the total. We get a total number, but we don't see like this is how much is coming from groceries or whatnot. It is important to note as well is that unlike the general state sales tax of 6.25%, the grocery tax has historically only been 1%. And, you know, that was temporarily paused from July of 22 until June of 23. And then that rolled off. And then again, it's been proposed in the governor's budget. So we continue to work with RTA. We'll continue to keep the board apprised as to what the materiality is on the proposal. It's important to note that during that prior pause, that entities across the state were held harmless, you know, so that the amounts that they would have otherwise received still flowed through from other state funding. I don't know if that's how that, you know, again, we're working with the RTA, working with the state and seeing if that's how this would, you know, be the way that it would work going forward. It's also important to note that the RTA's percentage that of which we receive a portion of 1.25% was not impacted previously and is expected not to be impacted under the current proposal either. But a lot of the things are very dynamic. Unfortunately, we have not had historically a lot of transparency, but we are working with our partners over at RTA and the state trying to get some more details to understand what the contours of the proposal are and how they would impact us.
Thank you.
Director Ortiz.
No questions. Thank you.
Director Ja.
Questions, thank you.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions. You may proceed to agenda item number 4.
Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing an update to ordinance number 023-131, approving the fiscal years 2024 through 2028 capital improvement program. Jeremy Fine.
And this is again, Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer. I'm joined today by Michelle Curran, the Deputy CFO and Comptroller.
Good morning. Michelle Curran, Deputy CFO and Comptroller, and I'm here today to present a proposed amendment to the 2024 to 2028 Capital Improvement Program, or CIP. The board previously approved the $3.6 billion CIP, and we're proposing a first amendment based on known changes. This amendment will incorporate an award from CMAP through the Carbon Reduction Program for $100 million for the Red Line Extension Project. In addition, existing funds totaling $20.3 million will be reprogrammed for the Venture 3.0 upgrade project. The net increase in funding due to this amendment is $120.3 million, bringing the 2024 to 2028 CIP to $3.7 billion. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
No, I don't have any questions. I'm just excited about the environmental justice that's going to take place as it relates to the RLE project, but thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in that regard, you may have seen the news reports that came out this week about the president's proposed budget. I'm very excited that the president has proposed the first year of funding for the RLE project under the full funded grant agreement that we expect to execute later this year of $350 million. That's consistent with what our expectations were. We were very happy to see that in the proposed budget. It's fiscal year. Obviously, that process still needs to get approved by Congress that authorizes the appropriation for this. But historically, with regards to the capital investment grant program, the recommendations of the president are what's in the final budget. So that portends very well for our ability to launch the project and get construction underway as we head into next year with the expectation of signing the grant agreement with the federal government.
And this, President Carter, the monies that have been approved for the RLE project has nothing to do with the infrastructure grant of 11 million that is going to to the Blue Line, or is some of that money have to be assigned to the Blue Line?
No, that's a separate and also good news for those of us who are working to address and improve the Forest Park branch of the Blue Line. That was a separate grant that we're receiving that's really focused on track renewal, which is, it's a critical challenge for that branch, and it's certainly impacting our ability to provide more reliable service. And that has nothing to do with the funding that we got for the Red Line extension. So it was a good week for CTA. We got 11 million for that project. We also got a $1 million grant for the Cicero Station grade crossing, which is money that we were hoping to get that allows us to make improvements there. So good week overall for us on the capital side, in addition to obviously the adjustments that we're making here with the proposed amendment.
Thank you.
Other questions? Director Ja?
No questions, thanks.
Director Ortiz?
Oh, thank you.
Chairman Barclay?
No questions.
Director Miller?
No question.
Director Lee?
No questions, thank you.
Director Jakes, there are no further questions. We may proceed to agenda item number 5.
Back to number 4, may I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Ortiz that the ordinance be placed on the agenda that the ordinance be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes,
The motion passes.
thank you. We will now review an ordinance authorizing a license agreement with the Chicago Film Archive for property located at 4750-4758 West Lake Street, Chicago, Illinois, which is the Green Line. Bill Mooney.
Morning, Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. Staff recommends approval of an ordinance authorizing a license agreement with the Chicago Film Archives for property located at 4750 to 4758 West Lake Street. Under a short-term agreement, Chicago Film Archives has been using space at the CTA Green Line Cicero Station to display a montage of historical films provided to it by local residents for the benefit of CTA customers. Parties wish to continue their arrangement and have agreed to a 2-year license agreement set to commence on March 15th, 2024, and ending on March 14th, 2026 at no cost to the CFA. Either party may terminate the license agreement upon 30 days notice, and the license agreement requires CFA to indemnify the CTA and maintain insurance at all times. CTA may terminate the agreement immediately if the area is needed for operations. I'll be happy to take any questions on this item.
I have no questions, Bill.
Director Lee?
No questions.
Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
No questions.
Director Ortiz?
Question, thank you.
Director Ja?
Questions, thank you.
Director Jakes?
May I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that this ordinance be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take the roll call vote. Director Jakes?
Yes,
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to agenda item number 6.
we will now review an ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the City College of Chicago for commercial learners permit training. Tom McComb.
Morning, Directors. Tom McCone, Chief Administrative Officer. This ordinance will establish an intergovernmental agreement with City Colleges of Chicago to create an ongoing training program for our bus operator job applicants at Olive Harvey College. In 2022, as one of the many initiatives we put in place to accelerate bus operator hiring, we piloted this program with Olive Harvey to help address barriers our bus operator applicants were facing. The program provides 2 weeks of commercial learners permit prep training at no charge to our applicants. Furthermore, for those who successfully complete the program, we cover the cost of taking the permit test. The program is modeled after a similar program we have with Olive Harvey for our Second Chance program participants. We offer this program to bus operator applicants who have successfully completed the hiring process and whose remaining step is to obtain a commercial learner's permit. This is the final step before receiving a formal offer of employment as a bus operator. During the initial phase, we successfully hired 145 employees from this program, or 80% of those who completed it. which exceeded our expectations. As you are aware, we had a record-breaking hiring year last year with over 1,000 bus operators hired. This program was one important component in delivering those results. This agreement would establish the program for the next 2 years and continue to support our bus operator hiring pipeline. We will hold 9 classes in 2024, with each class having space for up to 25 students. We reimburse city colleges at the tuition rate associated with each student. We are seeking your approval to continue this program to sustain a robust hiring. I'm open for any questions.
I have no questions, Tom.
Director Lee,
Great program. No questions. Thank you.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Chairman Barclay.
Just a comment, Mr. McCollum, thank you. This was a huge undertaking from the number of positions we needed to fill, streamlining the logistics of training, and onboarding for new hires. This is a great job in terms of execution, this effort in exceeding the bus hire goals. I know we told this story, but I think we need to keep telling this story. We hired over 1,000 bus drivers. I shared with President Carter that we challenged last year when someone said that's almost impossible to do. So I think your team needs to be commended for the efforts that they made to make this a turnkey kind of operation. And the other point that I want to highlight, working with a sister agency like City Colleges of Chicago, you know, that's awesome, just to work with Olive Harvey and with City Colleges to make this happen, to streamline this whole process, to allow us to hire 1,000 bus operators. I know the net effect, we lost some, but we gained 1,000. So I think it's moving in the right direction. I applaud you for your efforts, and I hope we continue to move in this direction.
Thank you. It's really been a team effort. We've had a great team working on this program, so really appreciate it.
Director Ortiz.
Yeah, same. I have a comment agreeing very much with the comments that have been made. Just working with the city colleges, I think it's an incredible opportunity to connect with other sister agencies, but also to be able to embrace all of the different needs that we have as an agency in terms of getting the right team members into our agency. And just, you know, if there are opportunities for expansion of that program into other city colleges, happy to see that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Can you talk a little bit about the result metrics that you shared in terms of last year's successes, in how many people went through the program, the percentage of success versus what we hired?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had roughly 180 people successfully complete the program. And of those, we hired 145 of them. So an 80% hiring rate. And a lot of that is due to the fact that not only were they going through the course during the 2-week program, but we were completing the other steps required in the hiring process while they were going through the program, so that on the Friday when they completed, and there's actually a class underway this week that'll complete this Friday, we'll give them the stipend to go ahead and take the test at the Secretary of State's office. They can get those results and they can start as early as the next Monday, so that they can just go seamlessly from the training program to starting, which I think really helps support that hiring rate of 80% that we had afterwards. So really strong completion. We had a lot of folks that were interested in the program, and to have 80% successfully hired upon completion is a really high result.
Awesome. And then you said that each class is up to 25, 9 classes. We know what is the rate of enrollment in, like last year? How was it? Was every class full?
For the most part, every class was fully enrolled. Our completion rate was, I think, slightly better than 90% in terms of completion rate. And usually you have 24 to 25 students per class.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
No further questions. Director Jakes.
One other thing, you asked the question about future opportunities with city colleges. And I do want you to know that we are in conversation with city colleges about other programs that we may enter into agreements with them about, particularly as relates to employee continuing education and other things. I've had a conversation with Juan, the CEO of the city colleges program. He's very much interested in finding ways in which CTA can partner with their institutions. And there are some things we're doing both from their standpoint, some opportunities that we're pursuing that we'll be bringing to the board in the near future, but also some opportunities from our standpoint with our employees that I think could be beneficial to CTA and relationships that I certainly hope can continue to grow and develop and move forward.
President Carter and Tom, and maybe this is for another session. How do you, with all of the new bus hires and those to come, how do you diversify where the drivers go? So is the South Side getting access as much as North Side, Northwest? Because I see that, we had the report last month of how the numbers are doing much better, in comparison to rail. But right now I'm not talking about rail, I'm talking about bus. So now my question again is, how do you select, who gets the lion's share of public transportation on the bus side?
Well, the initial assignment of bus operators that come out of training is within the purview of our bus operations group, which basically is looking at manpower and scheduling needs and making decisions on where they need to deploy those individuals based on those criteria. We can certainly give the board a more detailed briefing of both how that works and also what the numbers have looked like in terms of where we have distributed those operators. But primarily it's looking at where you have manpower shortages in a garage, and as such, where do you need to deploy new resources to help support those efforts? Obviously, the shortages may be much greater than the manpower coming out of any one particular class, but there is a process by which the operations department makes those decisions relative to what we're trying to do in terms of meeting service.
Okay.
And I would say as we've increased training, every garage is getting operators, right, to support the training and to support the capacity that we've increased for this. So when we have a class of, say, 50 come on board every 2 weeks, when they go out to learn their routes, some of those 50 are going to every garage. So it's getting spread evenly across all the area just to support that capacity.
Okay, and I would, I can't speak for the rest of my colleagues, but I would like to see reports on that, periodically, to see where the bus operators are being dispersed in the city. So thank you. And I think that was it. So may I now have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Ja that this ordinance be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes.
The motion passes. Director Jakes, you may now proceed to agenda item number 7.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract numbers B1 through B4 infrastructure. I have no questions, Georgette.
Are there any other questions, Director Ja? Director Ortiz? Chairman Barclay? Director Miller?
No question.
Director Lee?
No questions.
Director Jakes, you may now proceed to agenda item number 8. I'm sorry, you may now proceed to contract C1.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract number C1, contract awards for finance. I have no questions.
Director Lee, any questions?
None.
Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
None.
Director Ortiz?
No.
Director Shaw?
No.
Director Jakes, you may now proceed to contract F1.
Our next order of business today is the review of contract numbered F1, contract award for administration. No questions.
Director Shaw, any questions?
Questions.
Director Ortiz? Chairman Barclay?
None.
Director Miller?
No question.
Director Lee?
No questions.
Director Jakes, you may now proceed to contracts G1 through G4.
Our next order of business today is the review of contracts numbered G1 through G4, contract award for technology. I have no questions.
Director Lee, any questions?
None.
Director Miller?
No question.
Chairman Barclay?
No question.
Director Ortiz?
No.
Director Ja?
Questions.
Director Jakes, you may now proceed to contracts H1 through H2.
Our next order of business today is the review of contracts numbered H1 and H2, contract awards for safety. I have no questions.
Director Ja, any questions? Director Ortiz? Chairman Barclay?
No question.
Director Miller?
No question.
Director Lee?
None.
Director Jakes? There are no further contracts.
Since there are no further questions on the contracts, may I have leave to place the 12 contracts on the omnibus?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that the contracts be placed on the omnibus for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja?
Yes.
Director Ortiz? Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Jakes?
Yes,
Director Jakes, the motion passes.
thank you. Since there is no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and recommend the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved that the omnibus be recommended for board approval. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Jakes?
Yes,
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
Motion passes.
and finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja, that this meeting be adjourned. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Good morning. I would like to call to order the meeting of the Chicago Transit Board for March 13th, 2024. Georgette, please call the roll.
Director Lee? Here. Director Miller?
Here.
Chairman Barclay?
Here.
Director Ortiz?
Here.
Director Ja?
Here.
Chairman Barclay, you do have 5 members in attendance, and I believe that we have a procedural matter as it relates to our other board member, Director Ortiz.
I would like to request for Director Jakes to be included in part of this meeting. Conflicts for business, he is able to join via Zoom.
Motion to have Director Jakes to participate electronically due to business matters.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Director Miller. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Barclay?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Ja? The motion passes to permit Director Jakes to join the March 13th meeting of the Chicago Transit Board remotely. Welcome, Director Jakes.
Thank you. I like that. It said for business matters, as opposed to he has the cooties and didn't want to share it with everybody.
Our first order of business is public comment, Georgette.
Mr. Chairman, we have one public commenter who is here, and that is Isaac Campbell.
That's me.
Good morning, Mr. Campbell.
Good morning.
Mr. Campbell, I would like to just advise you that you have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Make your comment.
I just want to remind you about the extension of the schedule of the 147 coming back to the south. I haven't seen anything so far, and we really need it. And the next thing that I would like to tell you that will be a win-win business. We got more transportation, more public. We have a problem with our bus shelter. Maybe this is not the right place. We had a bus shelter there and Sheridan and Chase that it was removed between midnight and before sunrise. That was stolen. A modern bus shelter. I would like you to tell me where should I go exactly to address this situation about our bus shelter. We got Bill Morton, our hopefully next alderman. He told me about it, but I don't remember exactly the place that I should go to. That's what I want.
You have an answer for that as it relates to the bus shelters, correct?
The bus shelters are actually installed by the city of Chicago, not by CTA. But we can connect you with our community and government relations group. Thank you, Sam Smith, and he can coordinate with you getting your request over to the city of Chicago.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Remember 147.
Chairman Barclay, there are no additional public comments.
Our next order of business is the report of the Citizens Advisory Board will be given by the Vice President of the Citizens Advisory Board, Mr. Rob Johnson. Mr. Johnson.
I don't see it. May we have Mr. Johnson's visual?
To the, AV presentation.
We're gonna run it from behind.
Gotta wait till it's, while I wait for the presentation. Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chairman Barclay, Transit Board and President Carter. My name is Rob Johnson, the Vice Chair of the CTA Citizen Advisory Board, here to report out on our latest meeting of March 8th. As an overview, we were briefed over both the public safety and security and communications operations of the transit of CTA. That's the actual, yeah.
It's not it, sorry. Here, I have copies of everything. I will just pass them over to Mr. Johnson.
Great. Do they have copies as well? Okay. Okay, thanks. Safety and Security Department, led by Nancy Ellen Sussman. She gave us a presentation and then led a discussion between the board and its members. We covered an overview of the operations, everything that they cover, contracts, investigations, facilities, all of the layers of security that go into keeping the agency operating, but also keeping the passengers and employees safe as well. That's, cameras, personnel. I think a really particularly interesting point was talking about the interaction between the CPD and CTA and the layers of security that go into that. Thank you. I think it was, I don't want to say surprising, it was news, very informative to the group, to the board, that there is a transit police, there's a transit detail, thank you. Trying to find the right articulation. But that transit detail is housed within CPD. And it's more of a coordination and not the agency's own police department when determining, staffing, patrol, et cetera. And likewise, similar collaboration goes on with the county sheriffs as well. But again, it is a conversation about, what beats, what areas to cover. And, there were a lot of questions digging into, what does that mean? How are these decisions made? I really appreciate Ms. Sussman. She's very forthright. If there wasn't an easy answer, she was very upfront telling us it was an easy answer. Sometimes the answer meant, it's not our call. Ultimately, that's CTA's call, or sorry, CPD's call. There was also a very good delineation about the authority that, a Chicago police officer has, or an officer that is still, it's still a Chicago police officer, but they're part of the voluntary security force that CTA pays the city for, and the unarmed security guards and those details, who can detain, who can't detain, and how that would play out in a real world scenario. I'll selfishly bring up my own question when I say, if I see someone smoking, I don't want to be confrontational. I see an unarmed security guard not being confrontational. What does that mean? What do I do? And she kind of laid out everything that could be happening at that point. I thought it was extremely worthwhile, and I thank her for her time. And I think the board probably feels the same as well. The Citizens Advisory Board feels the same as well. We can move forward. Sorry. Here were some of the questions raised. I didn't want to go bullet by bullet through all of them, but I'm happy to answer questions or go into more details if there's anything that catches your eye or your attention. Otherwise, I could move on to the communications presentation that we were.
Question, what were some of the surprising or key takeaways that you learned from these questions asked?
Sure. I think there was a question, and I won't say it's a recommendation of the board, but there was a lot of question of, well, was there ever a transit police force? And it sounds like there was. It was disbanded, and CPD assumed those duties and those roles. And I think someone asked, has there been a cost benefit analysis about, the pros and cons that come with a dedicated force with CTA oversight? Maybe it's still working and alongside CTA. What does that mean? There's probably dozens and dozens of layers and complications that are raised by that. But a lot of it kept coming back to the coordination it sounds like it's going well, but are there still questions or maybe data that could be missing when ultimately a call is made over where to allocate resources? This was largely personnel focused, I will say, yes. Yeah, sure, no problem. And there was also questions about how the voluntary, the VSEP force works. Because it is voluntary, they are being paid, of course. But because there's an opt-in, what does that mean as far as consistency of staffing level? She raised a really good example when there was the civil unrest in the wake of George Floyd, and how that negatively impacted because there was no time to volunteer for the police department. But is that, and kind of playing that out, would there be future instances? Are there other regular instances? And are we prepared for those when perhaps that voluntary pool is under stress, right? For whatever those reasons out there may be. We can move to the next slide. Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
Was there any specific asks or follow-up that you requested as part of this conversation?
I believe there were asks about
a little more detail. The difficulty in the ask is that it sounds like ultimately it doesn't lie within the CTA necessarily, but the decision, the word was data, but I assume there was more than data that goes into this, about what goes into the decision-making about where to add extra police presence in an area. I think specifically that had to do with the county providing support, but I think that there was kind of an overarching sense of how that is, the thought process that goes into that.
There is an opportunity for CTA to use the agency, not in the agency, but use your agency and your power and your influence to do that. I think that would be a good way to look at it. I know we don't always control everything, right? But we do have influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Opportunity
Yeah.
From your perspective to provide some of those recommendations based on what you heard. I think that would be helpful.
I think that sounds great, and I think I wholeheartedly agree.
Thank you.
We can move on to the communications. So Ryan Steele from Communications shared a presentation with us talking about their operations. Again, very helpful. He definitely, I appreciated the detail that he goes into his responses. I found it very, very informative. And some of the follow-up and some of the questions that were asked, we can run on the next slide. So they're kind of two high level, just, how can CTA be, helpful to the Citizen Advisory Board? And then likewise, I think one thing that was, I'll push, is how the comms department interacts with various stakeholder groups, and to get the necessary information out. And it could be, plan closures, it could be reroutes, but it could also be, good news. And making sure, we see the amount of work that he puts in and the releases, or his department puts in, and the releases that go out, and CTA is very much in the news lately and responding and reacting to that. But oftentimes people aren't looking for it. So, the thought is that whether it be a local chamber of commerce or a Obama, Chicago, or maybe even like a union, just working through their respective comms to, get that message proactively. Maybe even there's, longer term asks, or you want to lay the groundwork for larger efforts, whatever those efforts may be. Pushing that information, providing, overviews to those organizations, and they will get it in front of their captive audience. And those are people that aren't necessarily looking for CTA updates and looking for CTA news. The example I gave was, working with Metra, they kind of laid the groundwork for their price changes, their prices increase. And when I had an angry member say, oh, Metra, they said that they wanted to increase the prices to punish downtown workers. Before that escalated to even getting the Metra or having that person, run to the press or something like that. We were there, or I was there to kind of say, no, that's not what's happening. Let me walk you through this, and it ended it right there. That's something that I think the CTA could benefit from. I think that's something that the city could benefit from as well. And then wayfinding was a big talking point as well. I did not know that comms was involved in wayfinding efforts. I found that very, very interesting. And he kind of walked us through the efforts to rearrange entrance and exit points, the alphabet system, for example, you know, some people I think found it helpful. Some people were saying, oh, that's what that's there for. Me personally, I just such a creature of habit. I'm just, oh no, I just go right, left or something. So, but I thought that was a really interesting as well. And that about summarizes the meetings. I'm happy to answer questions on that matter as well. Otherwise, thank you all for your time. Looking forward to sharing future activity. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, thank you. Can you extend our appreciation to the Citizens Advisory Board? Let them know that we appreciate the collaboration that we have.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I also want to thank the Citizen Advisory Board. My staff has really appreciated the opportunity to engage with the board and to really talk through a lot of the work that we do. There were a number of suggestions that the board has made that we also thought were good ideas, and staff will be following up. And we'll make sure to report back to the Citizen Advisory Board of what action we've taken in response to some of the suggestions you've given us, because I think it was a good dialogue. And I got very positive feedback from my team.
It's good. Thank you very much. Our next item of business on the agenda is our president's report. President Dorval.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning. CJ's ability to best serve our customers is made possible by the hardworking employees who operate and maintain our fleet and infrastructure, who coordinate our programs and services, who serve on both the front lines and behind the scenes, as we seek to provide a positive experience, travel experience for our customers every day. Our employees' importance is never lost on me, nor is the need for CJ to invest in them. At this time, I'd like for Tom McCone, CJ's Chief Administrative Officer, and Leticia Nieto, our Human Resource Department's Director of Employee Engagement, Marketing, and Outreach, to share our staff's vision for the future of employee engagement here at CTA. I'm very impressed with what they have achieved thus far and look forward to them sharing their thoughts with you regarding the ways they propose expanding or improving the CTA experience.
Great, thank you. Good morning again, directors. I'm Tom McCone, Chief Administrative Officer, joined by
Leticia Nieto, Director of Employee Engagement, Marketing, and Outreach.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you the development of an employee engagement function within the Human Resources Department that will be responsible for building programs to recognize employee excellence, highlight our community environment, and celebrate our culture. Although various versions of this program have existed over the years, the significance of this introduction is that the function will now be a separate standalone area within the HR department. We expect that such a program will provide employees with the platform to engage, recognize, and celebrate success, which will lead to better service and more satisfied customers. In a few moments, I'll turn it over to Leticia, our new Director of Employee Engagement, Marketing, and Outreach, to present to you a brief overview of the program. First, I want to provide a little bit of background and context for this function. So what I'm displaying here are some facts about the workforce. And as we've talked about recently, we have a workforce that is relatively new to the CTA. And for the first time in our history, we have such a new workforce. So 36% of our employees have been at the CTA for less than 5 years. And over 2,000 employees started on January 2023 or later. You can see the numbers of hires that we've had by year in the chart that's at the bottom here, and you can see the remarkable growth in new hires that we've had over the past year. Overall employee satisfaction did increase in 2023 as a result of numerous efforts that we started to put in place. And management support, recognition, engagement are key factors for employee satisfaction. So as we talk to employees, we listen to them, they identify recognition, engagement, management support as being critical to their satisfaction. Next slide. So what are the objectives of creating this function as President Carter described? So the first is to promote and enhance CTA culture. So we want to make sure that we're enhancing CTA culture and that overall employee experience. As we have a lot of new folks who have come in the door, we want them to be with us for 26 years and beyond. To do this, we need to promote and enhance that CTA culture. Second, we want to improve that employee satisfaction. We've seen improvements. There's still opportunities for growth through engagement and recognition programs. We want to reduce attrition. So we have seen levels of attrition that we want to move downwards. And so we want to improve that attrition, improve retention, and promote those internal growth opportunities, as a lot of employees coming through the door are looking for those growth opportunities in a place to build their career. And then finally, we want to support that management engagement. Our managers want to engage with their employees. They want the tools to engage with their employees. We want to make sure that we're supporting and enabling that. And with that, let me turn it over to Leticia to describe the programs that we're putting in place.
Before Leticia starts, let me just say a few more things about what Tom just mentioned. I think the most striking that I saw in a number of employees who are new to CTA. CTA has a very strong culture that has developed over multiple generations of employees, some of whom are related to each other, who have worked here and established a strong sense of purpose and mission and pride. One of the ways that I looked at that statistic is, one, it creates a new challenge for CTA because you have so many new employees. And the expectation of our incoming workforce is very different than the expectation of the workforce that we had here that's been here for 20 or 30 years. But it also was an opportunity for us to really take advantage of this sort of new group of employees who are really going to create the culture of the future for CTA, to really help shape that in a very positive way. I've had the opportunity to attend many graduation ceremonies over the past year. And one of the things that I can say universally when I've attended these is the spirit of enthusiasm, camaraderie, and support that exists amongst these employees is the strongest that I've ever seen. And I sat down with Tom and talked about what we need to do going forward as part of this conversation. What I really said is, I don't want to lose that as the employees continue to work here at CTA. I want to basically find a way to bottle the spirit that I see in these graduations and help it infuse the overall culture of CTA as we go forward. I don't think CTA will ever lose its strong feeling of mission and purpose. It is sort of embedded, deeply embedded in who we are. But I want to overlay that with a sense of enthusiasm and pride for what we do that really hopefully will generate improved morale, and even more importantly, from my perspective, increased retention of our employees over the long term. So I'm very excited about what we're about to share with the board and the rest of the public around what we're going to be doing. And I want you all to know that this is the beginning of a process, one that will continue to evolve and grow as time moves forward, as we really identify unique and appropriate ways for us to support our employees to ultimately provide the opportunity for them to engage in CTA in a very proactive and positive way. With that, I'll now turn it over to Leticia to walk through some of the details.
Thank you, President Carter. Next slide.
Excuse me very quickly. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but our ASL interpreters have asked that if you're reading your presentation, if you can slow down just a little bit.
Important. Thank you. Thank you all again for the opportunity to talk about our new initiatives. I'm very excited to talk about this topic because I'm really passionate about CTA culture. And although there have been programs that are focused on engagement and recognition, as Tom has mentioned, we are excited to level up and do more for our team members across the authority. So I'll start off by taking us through this last year and some of the initiatives that we already started to kind of show you what we've been doing. And you'll see some photos on the screen that represent what we've worked on this past year. And I have a few more to share because the best way to show you how we're engaging with our team members is to show you engaging with our team members. First of all, we piloted some new programs as well as enhanced some existing programs to see how much we can engage with our team members, not only in person, but also digitally. President Carter already mentioned the graduation ceremonies. This is the third year that we're starting these. We had 1 or 2 graduations in 2022. In 2023, we really enhanced this program to be what it is today. It is a community building, employee recognizing program that really sets the stage for what they should expect and what they should see from us moving forward. And I'll have some more details and photos about that in the coming slides. We increased our on-site celebrations. We know that our team members are spread throughout the city of Chicago, and so we can't just have programming here at 567. And so we looked for ways to bring these programs to our team members where they are, because that's really important, is to make sure that they are seeing that recognition at their workplaces. And so we started last year, the first of our many engagement tours that I will share more about a little later in the presentation. And those were incredibly well received. That's just one example of how we are bringing engagement and recognition to the work locations, to our teams. We capitalized on digital engagement. Digital engagement costs us nothing, and it's a way to reach out to our team members in areas and topics that are interesting to them, that are culturally important to them, and see if they want to engage with us. And you'll see some of those photos in our slide deck. This year, we had some fun, unique things that have nothing to do with work and just have everything to do with engaging with them as people. We asked them to send us submissions of their Halloween costumes. Did their departments dress up? Did their kids dress up? Show us what your families and your departments are doing together, because we are a community and we care about more than just the work that you're doing while you're at work. We had some holiday engagement activities, and we were really, really encouraged by the number of submissions that we received from team members across the authority, not just our 567 team members. And that's important because it really showed us that we're on the right track, that our team members are just looking for opportunities to engage with each other and to engage with CTA. And so how else can we engage with them in these ways that are free to us, but also how can we continue to find the things that they're interested in? With a diverse workforce like we have, that can be a challenge, is finding ways that we are reaching out to everybody with their diverse interest in what they want to see. We know that these types of programs, as Tom mentioned, is going to help us with attrition. We know that it's going to help us provide some professional development opportunities. And we hope that it'll inspire them to grow with our organization instead of outgrow our organization, because we want to see them stay with us after the investment that we've made in them. So now with a dedicated team, we really can focus on finding those things that they're interested in. Next slide. Let me walk you through some of the things that we did in 2023. First of all, we talked about culture. CTA's culture is about service. We visited work locations across the authority, and we made sure to visit garages. We visited terminals. We visited some of the shops, Skokie shops, South shops, West shops. We know that we're not just buses and trains, that we are supported by so many different departments, and we want to make sure that we're touching as many as possible. These are images from our summer tour, the first tour that we did, where we visited over a dozen locations, brought them some fun, small giveaways, some snacks for them to break out their day. But more importantly, we engaged with them. How long have you been at CTA? What garages have you worked at CTA? Have you been at Harlem Terminal? How long have you been there? How many bus stops can you name? Like, just finding out who they are. And we were just shocked at how excited they were that we were there. And so the other thing that was really exciting is we saw some of the people that we saw at graduation. And so they said, oh, I saw you at graduation. When will you be back? And so we know that we're seeing repeat customers, if you will, that are at our events here, that then see us out in the field, and they've come to expect this level of engagement and care from the organization that they work for. Next slide. This is some images from our winter tour. For the holidays, we took to the streets again and visited work locations, brought some hot cocoa and made it for them on the spot, took some pictures, had our trivia wheel so they could answer trivia about CTA and win little prizes. And again, we visited locations all over the authority to make sure that we're reaching as many people as we can, because we know that it's important to do so. Next slide. CTA's culture is about community. And so opportunities for us to engage with them are important, but also opportunities for them to engage with each other are important. So that's really both things are being taken care of with our events. We want to talk to them. We want to hear what they want from us, but we also want them to build community with each other. And if you've been to one of our graduations, next slide, you will know that community engagement is something that they're very, very passionate about. If you have a chance today to stop by our graduation, you'll see it firsthand. They are supporting each other. They are, next slide. They're promoting each other's success. Next slide. And they are celebrating together. We have already 2 graduations under our belt this year, and we continue to see those folks in the field. Now, for graduations, the feedback that we've received has been so positive. We've had a couple of people who are returning to CTA after having worked here before, and they stopped us to say, we didn't have this the first time I worked here. This is so nice. Like, are you guys going to keep doing this? And the answer to that is yes. Like, it shouldn't be a shocker to you that we're celebrating getting through training, getting through that program, making it through the hiring process, and then starting your job here. These graduations are also a great opportunity for them to see model behavior from our leaders, many of them that started in jobs like these. And so giving them an opportunity to say, hey, this is a chance for me to level up and to continue to grow my career here at CTA. And so these are wonderful. And again, I personally invite you to join us today if you have a chance to stop by.
Before she goes on, one thing you may ask is, well, this is great for frontline employees. What about all the other employees who also get certificates and other things? We are working on an event that will basically allow us to recognize a broader range of employees who have had accomplishments over the course of the year. One of the things that I've noticed about CTA from a cultural standpoint is that we don't really celebrate our success as an organization. We tend to do our job, get through whatever the issue is of the day, and then move on to the next thing. So one of the things that I really tasked Tom and his team to focus on is really making sure that we are identifying those moments of success, finding more ways to amplify that, both individuals in terms of our recognition from CTA perspective that they have accomplished something that we're very proud of, but also for their fellow employee and teammates, so that they get the chance to really receive that recognition in a positive way, which I hope will encourage more of our employees to pursue similar paths, which ultimately strengthens our workforce, and at the end of the day, start to create a deep bench of capable people who are ready to move up into higher level positions within CTA.
Next slide. Okay, so all those programs look like a lot of fun. Those pictures look like a lot of fun, but with 10,000 strong and locations all over the city, ideating, planning, and executing programs like this is a lot of work. And so we're approaching this really strategically to make sure that we're focused on the right areas and grow in the right way as we improve our programming. We plan to enhance the CTA employee experience by strategically implementing new engagement activities that speak to our diverse and growing workforce. As we've mentioned before, our workforce is growing. And so with almost 2,000 employees that started since January of 2023, this is a crop of fresh, excited people that have been through graduation, that have seen the programs that we've put together. And so any negative ideas that may have existed in the past, they don't have that. They've seen graduation, they've seen the tour, they've seen how we engage and we care about them and their professional development. And so we want to build on that momentum and have them be our ambassadors to promote this positive culture that is really growing. Our plan is to offer more opportunities for our team members to meet and build community via employee resource groups, cultural celebrations, engagement activities, digital and in person, and professional development activities. In short, sprinkling a little fun, learning, and gratitude in their workday so that they can feel that recognition from the organization. We're also recognizing 10 people today, but we know that there are many, many more, as President Carter mentioned, across all departments that deserve recognition for the work that they do, be it customer service, innovative thinking, or simply for showing up to work every single day. These are all things that can be recognized. The big wins and the small wins are important. And so we're going to find more ways to recognize our team and recognize them again across locations. So stand by for more of those opportunities like today's and like graduation and others. We also know that with such a diverse workforce, we need to enhance our benefits and the perks that we offer our team members because other companies are doing it. So in the past year, we partnered with the Museum of Science and Industry and the DuSable Museum of Black History to offer complimentary admission to our team members, as well as an impressive list of discounts for our team members through HR engagement and through wellness, like discounted tickets to Bulls games or to Broadway in Chicago or to Great America. The wellness team has had great programs promoting and sponsoring registration to races in the summer during the running season. But this year, they're also adding some things that are not just running for this, like painting classes or meditation classes, because we all relax and de-stress in different ways. So making sure that we offer different and a variety of offerings for all of our team members is really important. These are fantastic programs, but we know that we need more, and we are actively working on finding more. The last focus that I'll mention is communication. And this one is really critical because improving our communication method will ensure that all the good work being done by so many departments to engage our team members is reaching all of our team members at all of our locations. We'll be working to upgrade and modernize our intranet site to make it more inviting, more engaging, and more easy to access. We'll be working on a centralized calendar and events of offerings so that any team member can look on there and see what is CTA offering me this month. Do I want to go for a run during the running season? Do I want to go to a painting class? Do I want to hit up discounts for Broadway in Chicago or take one of the learning development classes that our training and workforce development department offers? We want a centralized location for them to find everything. So we're working on that. We want every team member to be able to log on and see the employee spotlights and the people who got commendations and be able to celebrate their teammates with us. And not just have it be something that happens here at 567, but that is available to team members across the authority so they can be proud of their team members and they can strive for that same type of recognition. We also want to make sure that all of the resources that are important are available to those who want them, like our EAP programs, our benefits and wellness programs. So this communication platform is one of our highest priorities, and we're already working on making sure that we get that off the ground. So let me show you now some of the events that we have coming up this year. Next slide. We've got a lot going on. Like I mentioned, we have our quarterly engagement tours. Those started last year with our summer tour. We actually end up having 4 a year, starting with the one that we're doing right now. I have a slide coming up about that. So we have a summer tour, we have a spring tour, and a holiday winter tour. We also have one in the fall that is focused on career development. And for that, we invite our friends in training and workforce development to join us. And then we do mock interviews, we do resume workshops, we have opportunities for headshots so that our team members can, again, level up right here at CTA and find ways to grow with our organization. So those tours are happening now, and we're really excited to be able to expand on those. We have employee spotlights every month where we take nominations from managers or team members who nominate a peer about the excellent work that they do in any department. And so those are shared digitally. And we also send them to the work locations, and we ask managers to print them out and present them to their team members so that they know that they've been recognized by the organization. We're planning a day of service in May where we'll invite CTA team members to join us on a weekend and provide service in the city, clean up a park, clean up a neighborhood, and offer an opportunity for community service because we know that a lot of our team members are interested in doing that. One of the most fun projects that we have is our cooking demonstrations. We invite a chef onto a work location to demonstrate how to cook a healthy meal, and then they pass out samples to our team members. And last year we did about a dozen work locations. This year we have 9 confirmed, and we're hoping to add a few more. And we do that in partnership with our wellness team and with the Diversity Task Force celebrating a Heritage Month. So we just did 3 cooking demonstrations in Black History Month. We went to different locations and then engaged with our team members there. That's just a sample of what we're doing. Next slide. And what we are currently on right now is our Transit Employee Appreciation Tour. Employee Appreciation Day was March 1st. And as we know, Transit driver, now Transit Employee Appreciation Day is March 18th. And so for 2.5 weeks in March, we've been traveling through the system, visiting different work locations, terminal garages, shops. We'll be here at 567 on March 18th, passing out our Transit Appreciation Pin, which all of you should have now, doing our trivia wheel and learning more about CTA, passing out information about our perks of the ride, our discount program, wellness, our veterans resource group, and just really engaging with our team members and getting to know who they are and hearing what they want from their organization. That's a little bit about what we're doing and what we're planning to do. Pass it back to Tom. Let's see if there's anything else.
There is nothing else. I'm excited to add to that. I'm excited to keep moving and get engaged this year and actually continue with today's program, which builds on that recognition as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to President Carter.
Thank you. And before I go to the next part, I just want to make sure to give the board a chance to ask any questions they may have of what we're working on and anything else that you may be interested in knowing about the plans for the upcoming year and in the future.
I don't have any question. They laid it out. Thank you.
I love it. I mean, I love this. My only ask of the team is whatever we do, let's be very focused on metrics in terms of when you're launching these programs, attendance, how many people show up, how many are we doing, if there's a digital, what's the hit rate, how often are people visiting these? I think it's important to be rooted in the effectiveness of the program as well. These are all lovely opportunities for us to set the bar really, really high. And I know you already do that. I'm just going to say, let's let's be data driven and let's do what they want versus what we think they want. But I love it. Kudos to the team. Thank you for sharing.
I agree 100% with that. Program is an assessment and a feedback loop that allows us to understand what our employees like or don't like about what we're doing, but also what other things they'd like to see, as well as obviously to your point, metrics about participation and other activities that show us whether or not we are hitting the expectations that we have for the programs that we're working on. I recognize not everything that they do can necessarily be measured from a cost benefit analysis as a traditional metric, but there are other metrics that we can use that I think give us a sense of the effectiveness. And overall, what we are hoping to do, of course, is to be rated as one of the top employers in this city, if not in this country, if we do this correctly. And certainly that's the kind of goal that I set for them when I told them I wanted them to pursue this. And given the challenges that many of our employees face on a day-to-day basis, just doing their jobs, which go far and above, what most employees have to put up with, I think this is a critical component of what we need to improve employee satisfaction around the work that they do and ultimately continue, as I said, to support both the recruitment and retention of our employees as we move forward.
Yeah, and just not everything needs to be cost benefit analysis, right? There's a human element to this. There are testimonials. There are things that we just have to do as humans. But there's a clear way of looking at how impactful they are. So when I say metrics, it doesn't, not everything is tied to the dollars that you're spending on it. But let's look beyond. And then the only other thing is, let's count for every single person that works for CTA. So let's put programs that are inclusive and that covers the diversity of the folks that are there, that we can actually track and see their journey. So it's almost like an employee journey, and go from that, because every single profile is going to be different. So how can we be mindful of being inclusive towards the whole community and not just focusing on one and then not. So thank you, though.
I'd like to add one thing too, just to encourage more, not just celebrations. I mean, celebrations are great. I love celebrations. Right? I think it's amazing to do that. But career development, I think it's more also some things that we should focus on as well. I heard there was, part of the tour, but having more opportunities for employees to understand how they can progress in their career, not just win prizes, prizes are,
I think one of the critical things that we're doing is having open dialogues with our partners in other departments. Training and Workforce Development have amazing career development programs, and just making sure that we share that knowledge with each other so that we can promote each other's programs, even if we're not in an event together. And that's already started to happen when we're out in the field, engaging with our team members. We will bring our information from our wellness team. We'll bring information from our training and workforce development team to make sure that we're sharing it as often as we can and collaborating.
And to that point, and maybe this is a future presentation we give to the board, there's a lot of career development activity that happens at CTA, a lot of development programs, both internal and external, that we send our employees to. It might be a good idea, and Tom, we can talk about this, about putting together a presentation about what we do to support and encourage our employees' career growth here at CTA, both on the union side, but also on the non-union side. Which is one of the reasons why I was making the point earlier about wanting to celebrate a lot of that activity as well, because a lot of that does go on, but the acknowledgement and recognition of it doesn't get the same level of attention that I think it should be to encourage more employees to pursue it.
On that note, just wanted to share, there's a lot of what you share was more internal, right? How are we collectively creating a different culture? But also I just want to share that it's also important to really think about how our writers see our employees, right? That's a huge interaction. And so continuously thinking about how we're encouraging recognition, encouragement, acknowledgement of that interaction, I think would be also really helpful.
That's a very good point. And we certainly can share more information about what we do with that side of the house as well, both in terms of getting the public to understand that our employees actually are people, which goes to safety and security issues that we have with, but also making sure that our employees understand, and not our employees, that our customers understand those employees who we view as superstars within the organization. And how do we externalize that information that customers see and recognize that? That's a very good point.
I can see how important and significant this topic is, and Tom's gonna come back and share more information in the future. But, Bill, I'll let you conclude.
Thank you. So let me move on to the next part of the agenda here. Tom, Leticia, thank you very much. To the board, while our employee engagement efforts are for the benefit of all CTA employees, at this time, it's my great pleasure to recognize some of our standouts. 10 of CTA's best employees, all of whom have received multiple customer commendations in 2023. As you may be aware, and as was stated earlier, March 18th is National Transit Employee Appreciation Day. It is an important annual celebration of our agency as we salute CTA's hardworking men and women, including both our frontline employees, like our bus and rail operators and customer service personnel, and our less heralded and rarely seen but no less important staff support our customers behind the scenes, like those who work in our infrastructure, maintenance, operations, safety, and security departments, among others. I'm happy to have the opportunity to honor these 10 employees at today's board meeting as we approach the 18th, as it affords me the opportunity to highlight some of the best among our family of employees. To understand why we honor those employees who receive multiple customer commendations, it is helpful to consider how most people experience public transit. Whether they are daily commuters or once-in-a-lifetime visitors, most days, hundreds of thousands of customers board our buses and trains seeking to get from point A to point B. As with any business that invites feedback, when something goes wrong, our staff and management hear about it, as we should. By contrast, everything goes smoothly. Riders rarely give it a second thought. That too is appropriate. In fact, I would say that is the norm. It's that very dynamic that makes this group stand out. To a person, not only did each of these 10 employees do something right on a single occasion and then have it recognized by our customers, they impressed customers on multiple occasions in such a profound way that we heard about their performance 2 or more times. These employees represent excellence in public transit, and as CTA president, they make me very proud. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce them to you at this time. Honorees, when your name is called, please stand and join us here along the wall between the flags. I would like to begin with our employees who received 2 customer commendations last year, all of whom work in our rail station management department. First, we have our longest tenured employee this morning, Bonita Humphrey, customer service representative who has been with CTA for 33 years. Also joining us is Charisse Hogan Meeks, a customer service representative. Charisse has reached her silver anniversary with us, as this is her 25th year of service to CTA. Right on her heels is Elisa Turner, customer service representative. Elisa has been with us for 24 years. We have Danielle Moore, one of our outstanding rail janitors, who has been with us for 10 years. And finally, we have Billy Lane, joined our staff last May. Billy is a rail janitor apprentice and has 2 commendations despite not even having reached his 1-year anniversary with CTA. Billy, you should be very proud of this accomplishment. Keep up the good work. Our next 5 honorees all represent bus operations, and we're not about to let rail station management have all the fun. Our next honoree received 4 commendations. Bus operator Brandon Barica, who has been with CTA for 4 years and operates out of the Forest Glen garage. Directors, you may remember Brandon, who we honored last year for an incident where he kept his head in a very difficult situation. protected a customer's safety, and demonstrated what a great employee he is. It doesn't surprise me that an employee and a person of this caliber is back here today. Brandon, welcome back. I have no doubt that you will join us in this room every year that you choose to continue to serve our customers with such excellence. Next up are two employees who received 5 commendations last year. First, we have Elliot DeJan, who became a bus controller in January. Congratulations, Elliot. Who actually was at one of my graduation ceremonies. I got to congratulate him there as well. Last year, Elliot served as a bus operator out of the Chicago Avenue Garage. Elliot has been with us for 6 years. And Barshika Lyons, a 9-year CTA veteran who operates out of the Chicago Avenue Garage. Elliot and Barshika, you have very difficult public-facing jobs that require you to drive a bus while safely accommodating our passengers' needs and navigating traffic along Chicago's busy city streets. I should suggest to you, and I've said this before, you all do a job that I never would be able to do. Such a high number of accommodations shows us you have been more than up to the task. And thank you all for everything that you do. In our penultimate spot, we have 8 accommodations from Michael Toomey Becker, a bus operator working out of Forest Glen Garage. Michael has been with us for 20 years. And Michael, with 8 accommodations, it is clear to me that you not only have made the most of those 2 decades in terms of your using your experience to serve our customers well, but you are a shining example of those who have followed you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, we have today's overachiever. And frankly, I asked my staff to double check the number of accommodations this employee received when I initially saw it. It very well may be that this employee needs to retire to the Hall of Fame of commendations because he is with us literally every year. Our final honoree is Alexa McCracklin, a bus operator driving out of North Park Garage. Alexa has 9 years with CTA, which is a feather in his cap, of course, but that isn't why he is here today. Alexa has demonstrated a unique superior level of customer service as a bus operator, as recognized by 14 customer commendations that he received last year alone. Yeah, and I want to. That's not all. I should note that Alexa is a frequent flyer source when it comes to receiving commendations from customers. He was honored in 2020 as well for his outstanding customer service. While Alexa is not the first employee to receive a larger than normal number of customer accommodations during any particular year, he does belong to a very special class of employees that works hard and loves what he does, and as a result, is beloved by those he serves. Honestly, 14 accommodations is impressive, but in Alexa's case, it's not surprising. I recently read a quote from him that said he's known that he wanted to be a CTA bus driver since he was 5 years old, that he loves his interactions with our customers. Alexa, you've taken your dream job and have become a dream employee. Thank you for caring about our customers and for serving this great agency. You are a shining star and the best representation possible of whom I am talking about when I remind the world that CTA is some of the best employees in public transportation. Mr. Chairman, following any remarks that you or the board wish to make, my staff will then take a photo of the board with the honorees.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your presentation. Say this every time we have employee recognition, but it's really one of my favorite parts of being on board at CTA. Our frontline employees are the lifeblood of the agency, and getting a chance to recognize the exceptional work and dedication of our employees that represent the best of CTA is truly a pleasure. Thank you for all you do to keep our great city moving. Congratulations on your recognition today and keep fantastic work. I'm also very pleased to see the efforts CTA has taken to engage our employees and most importantly, expand our efforts to show appreciation to our employees. As we discussed earlier with the City College's agreement, we made significant investment in recruiting and building our workforce from the pandemic. The ultimate indicator of our success in those efforts is retention. And I'm glad to see we're investing in the recognition and engagement of our employees. Thank you very much. I now would open up to any of the board members for comments.
I think everything's been said.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you.
So great.
A moment to be part of this organization.
Congratulations. I was over early this morning, so again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So, Mr. President, before we move on, we will pause for that picture.
Yes.
And then we'll get back to the agenda.
Okay.
Ask the board members to join us if you can.
Okay, where do you want me to?
The Chairman Bartley. Yeah.
Next to you.
So if I could have three of you ladies just kind of come right about here and then have people kind of speed in this way a little bit. This way a little bit, please. And see. Wow. Three, 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations. This is doing again. Congratulations. Congratulations. Take care. Congratulations.
Chairman, one other point I want to make, obviously, there's a tremendous management team that supports these employees every single day. Many of them were here and some of them may have already walked out of the room, but I just want to acknowledge the fact that, my management team on the operations side is a terrific asset to CTA, and they are clearly the ones who support and obviously, promote these employees in a positive way. So I just want to make sure we recognize that entire group and the work that they do every day to keep the service running and to respond to our customers.
Thank you, President Carter. Our next order of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of February 14, 2024. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Ja that we approve the CTA Transit Board minutes from February 14, 2024. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Leaf,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Ortiz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Our next order of business is executive session. It's my understanding, Kent, that there's an executive session today.
Yes, Chairman, there will be an executive session pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, section 2C, subsections 11 and 21.
I will now entertain a motion to recess into executive session for reasons stated by council.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Ja that the board move into executive session. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Lee, Director Jakes.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Lee, that we return to open session. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
The motion passes.
We will now address board agenda item 6A. Kent?
Chairman, in item 6A, the board reviewed the closed meeting minutes for February 14th, 2024.
Thank you, Kent. May I have a motion to approve the closed session minutes for February 14th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller, seconded by Director Lee, that we approve the closed session minutes from the executive session from February 14th, 2024. We'll take the roll call vote. Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
The motion to approve the closed session minutes from February 14th, 2024 passes.
We'll now address board agenda item 7, board matters. Georgette, do we have any board matters today?
Chairman Barclay, there are no board matters.
Our next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget, which will be presented by Director Jakes.
Thank you, Chairman Barclay. The committee met earlier this morning and approved the February 14th, 2024 committee minutes and reviewed the finance report. The committee reviewed 3 ordinances. 1, review of an ordinance authorizing an update to ordinance number 023-131, approving the fiscal years 2024 through 2028 capital improvement program. 2, review of an ordinance authorizing a licensing agreement with the Chicago Film Archive for property located at 4750-4758 West Lake Street, Chicago, on the Green Line. Number 3, review of an ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the City College of Chicago for commercial learners permit training. The committee also reviewed 12 contracts. The committee placed the 3 ordinances and 12 of the contracts on the omnibus. The committee approved and recommended for board approval 3 ordinances and the 12 contracts. That concludes the report of the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee.
Thank you, Director Jakes. I will now entertain a motion to approve the omnibus.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Lee that the omnibus be approved. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Ja,
Yes.
Director Ortiz.
Yes.
Chairman Barclay,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Our next order of business is the construction report from Bill Mooney, our Chief Infrastructure Officer, and Juan Pablo Prieto, our Director of Diversity Programs.
Morning, Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer again, and I'm joined by
Juan Pablo Prieto, Director of Diversity Programs.
again our monthly construction update at our normal location, CDOT Lakeline Damon Station. Projects proceeding forward very aggressively, looking to come to completion in the middle of the summer year. Most of the focus has been around finalizing some of the major structural elements, canopy, and tie-in points so they can start finishing up all the enclosures. Look at a couple of photos here. Here you can see that green tower from the elevator I showed you last month that was craned in. You can also see some of the structural steel that ties into that point in the background, as well as a lot of that canopy steel being set up there. Here you can see some of the detailed work around that structural steel that ties in.
Get those pictures.
Yeah, we're not seeing.
In your presentation here.
It wasn't. There it is. You go now? Good?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so here you can see again, the green towers, right? Here's how they got green. So the first one was primed and coated before when it was craned in place. All the other structural steel that's being built in place is being painted on site and directly here. This will be the stair tower and the connection point for that elevator to the platform level. And you can see the top of what will be the canopies there along the platform. You can see them setting some of that canopy steel on the opposite platform level. The next big activity that you'll see really that's exciting is in the upcoming month and a half or so, they'll be flying in the big bridge that connects those two platforms. Moving forward to our non-revenue vehicle maintenance facility, this is quickly coming to completion. Most of the major work is done outside the track work that's associated with connecting us to the railroad. Here you can see some of the cleanup work. So here they are doing some touch-up painting around the building. Here's some of the track work I was talking about, which has really been a focus. We're about 50% done with the track work at this point. Here they are laying out the sub ballast, which is what the track will be built on top of. Here you can see kind of an aerial view as that track is starting to go up and process. Here's a little bit of detail work. This portion of the project is being self-performed by CTA employees. So this is our track department doing it on site here. Next month, you should see a significant portion of this coming to resolution. We start moving in towards the end of this month, start shipping down. There's a lot of stuff that goes in this building. It's a very diverse fleet of equipment and parts supporting it. And so some of that will start going in. And so over the next 60 days, they'll start to occupy the facility as we get the track tied in and we start to use it for full. So we move on to our Canal Barry Damon traction power upgrade. Lots of activity here on all the sites. So here you can see interior work at the Damon substation. So this building's fully enclosed at this point. They are starting to wire in all the electrical for the building. That includes just house power, so the lighting and other equipment support stuff, heating, as well as you'll start to see the traction power equipment showing up in the next couple of months as they're prepping for that. On the right side photo, this is over down block at Haymarket. So they're just finishing up Haymarket, which is predominantly complete at this point. So they're detailing out the last of this duct bank. They'll be tying it into the existing green line structure. And ultimately, this is the power we borrow for Canal. So there's lots of work at Canal. I've shown you this over the last couple of months as the house has moved in place. So now they're doing a lot of detail work. They're wiring up the house. They're pulling out the cables that come out of the house to the field. This is the apron right outside the house, and there's a duct bank there. So they end up pouring in a concrete pad here. So here you can see them forming up for that and laying the rebar for that. And at Barry, we got a lot of concrete work at Barry right now. So this is the second floor at Barry. This is again a multi-story building. It goes 2 floors up and 1 floor down. And here you can see that top floor. This will be where part of the traction power equipment is housed. Here is the mesh pad for the bottom floor. This is our ground level floor here at Barry. And then here you can see the pour. So they've started a bunch of concrete work here. This slab gets set and then they start building walls and closing completely here. Once this top floor is fully set in, it's structural, and they'll actually pull down part of the subway ceiling below it, and that will create that subfloor. I am introducing a new project this month. We're pretty excited to talk about the Harlem Bus Bridge Improvement Project. It is a $34 million project that will be replacing. We have lots of structure in this. You see miles and miles of elevated loop structure and other things, but we have very few bridges. And this is a true traditional bridge. It goes over the highway up by Harlem on the O'Hare. The contractor is John Burns Construction Company. And they have been actively working on the site, getting going with some of the major activities. And I'll give you a highlight of this. So this bridge actually is where we berth our buses. They're currently staged on the street facilitating. So we closed off that bus terminal access point. The first major activities is they actually directionally bored. So that bridge actually was the path for water for the station, for electrical for the station. ComEd actually got across the street, across the highway on that bridge. So we had to directionally bore a bunch of duct banks underneath the highway to come up underneath the station now to be able to take that bridge structure down. So here you can see them doing that directional bore. It's pretty common practice in the industry now as a way to do this work. And then they started demolition. So it's a big canopy structure. So they'll end up taking down the sheeting and the canopy, and then they'll end up taking out the bridge deck and taking down the major members over the highway. And then we'll start building back up from that. So you'll see this going on over the next year or so. And that brings us to our final process, RPM. I've shown you a lot of photos. As I've mentioned before, we're kind of in a rinse and repeat cycle. On the red purple bypass area, here you can see them forming columns. In the upcoming weeks, you'll see them setting the precast beams. That was the mirror from the prior structure that we've shown you over the last year. We are in the closure of Clark Street. It's progressing very much on schedule. We're expected to reopen right before the Cubs season, which was what the plan was, to get us kind of out of the footprint of the Cubs season with all these major activities. Knock on wood, it's gone pretty well. We find lots of things underground when we dig, and none of them have been major detriments to the project. And up on the north side, we're seeing stations. So this is the exciting part right now. This is the real difference in the space. So here you can see at Berwyn, the elevator mat and foundation. So this will be the new elevator to make that station fully accessible as part of the project. Here you can see the column caps being poured for at Bryn Mawr. This is where we actually set the structural steel for the platform. So this is the first of the platforms going up there. In the upcoming months, you'll see that structural steel in place in these photos. Here is actually drainage that we're, so as part of our plan to open up the space, remove this a wall, and in the upcoming months, we'll be bringing back the concepts of the activation of this space. We have a bunch of drainage we have to put in place now. So the embankment wall was part of the drainage system. So now we're doing a bunch of underground drainage tied to the retention of that water footprint. So here you can see that going in place. It's really the first step of that next phase of activation. And our friend, the Windy City Gantries showing back up. So the gantries being fully assembled. In the upcoming months, you'll start to see that in play more. Probably next month, you'll see photos of it setting segments again. So we're really excited to see that portion of the project moving forward again. And we continue our outreach with the 44th Ward, the 46th, 48th Ward with our regular touch points. We've been doing a lot of open for business campaign support in the Clark Street corridor where that closure is, those businesses that are directly affected on Clark Street. We've done a lot of signage and directional support around that. It's really well received campaign. We've been supporting our planning department with future phase meetings. So this is about kind of what happens post RPM in the next phase of RPM, the next phase thereafter. So there's a lot more structure up there that we need to deal with and a lot more modernization. And they're already starting that planning process to get us prepared for that next round of federal granting programs, right? And then we could participate in a bunch of under L activation meetings over the last few months. The latest one was in the 48th Ward, really focused on the businesses in that area. And we were represented in the Argyle Lunar New Year Parade. It's a great event. We always are happy to be there. Our friends in transportation brought out the mini train, which is always a very, very popular portion of the event. So we're always glad to support it and be a part of it. So I'll turn over to Juan Pablo.
Thanks, Bill. Last month I covered our first quarter workforce event that happened in the Red Line Extension footprint. Yesterday, we hosted a pre-apprenticeship workshop in the RPM footprint at Truman College. This event connected interested individuals with the resources they would need to pursue apprenticeships in the building trades. I'll have some pictures and more details for you in next month's briefing. We are also in the planning stage of our Q2 event, and we'll send the flyer to the board once that's advertised. At the end of February, 119 unique DBEs have been awarded over $268 million between the design and construction packages on RPM Phase 1. And 54 of those firms are new to CTA. On the workforce side, as of the end of February, 2,112 unique individuals have worked over 1.5 million labor hours and earned over $94 million. You may have seen some of these numbers highlighted in a recent Chicago Sun-Times article that spotlighted one of the DBEs on the project. We're really thankful to the communication staff that got that story out and the Sun-Times for picking it up. Now I'd like to show you the next installment of our monthly video series in which we highlight the RPM project's ambitious workforce and DBE inclusion programs. In honor of Women's History Month, today we will hear from Christina Clausen, President and CEO of Clausen Structures. We are delighted to continue to share these stories on how CTA and RPM have improved the lives of Chicagoans and their families. Thank you.
My name is Christina Clausen. I'm president and CEO of Clausen Structures. About 15 years ago, I was in the mortgage industry, and when the crash happened in 2008, mortgages is all I knew. So I basically didn't have a job. I had to reinvent myself. I grew up around trades. Everyone around me was in trades, and I got involved with the ironworkers, went to the apprenticeship and learned everything I could. I shadowed foremen, bought a truck, got a foreman, started the business. My experience on CTA, RPM has been amazing. We don't do a lot with Walsh Floor. This is, we've done a few jobs with them. This is probably going to be the biggest job we've done. So it's been a great experience so far. The professionalism's been amazing. Everybody's been amazing, and it's an exciting project to be a part of. Clausen Structures is currently doing on CTA RPM is the rebar concrete reinforcement, which is the rebar. We're tying the rebar together. This is a diamond. It's actually the top of the pier, and the pier actually goes down to bedrock, and it's actually the foundation of the project. So CTA RPM has helped us work through the winter. Actually, most of our jobs end around Thanksgiving, so this has been it's been good to be able to keep people employed through the winter. So this project is helping us grow with Walsh Floor. Having that relationship with Walsh Floor has been amazing, and I think they're impressed with us. I think they're happy with us, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more with them. So that's definitely helping the relationship. If I could say anything to CTA RPM, I would say thank you for the opportunity. It has been an absolute pleasure and exciting opportunity. And thank you very much. Look forward to doing more business with you guys.
So that concludes our construction report. I will be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our final order of business is new business. Georgette, is there any new business?
Chairman Barclay, there is no new business.
Since there is no further business to come before the board, I have a motion to adjourn the Chicago Transit Board meeting, March 13, 2024.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Lee that the meeting for today be adjourned. We'll take a roll call vote. Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
Chairman Barclay.
Yes.
Director Ortiz.
Yes.
Director Ja.
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
Chairman Barclay, the motion passes.
Meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.